Congresswoman Michele Bachmann, how can you create jobs as quickly as possible?
Well, I think one thing that we know is that taxes lead to jobs leaving the country. All you need to know is that we have the second highest corporate tax rate in the world. And if you go back to 1981 and you look around the world, we had a lot of high corporate tax countries. It was 47% on average on a lot of countries across the world. But if you look today in the United States, we have an effective rate, if you average in state taxes with federal taxes, of about 40%. But the world took a clue, because capital is mobile, and capital went to places where corporate tax rates went to 25% and falling. We're still stuck in a 1986 era of about a 40% tax rate. We have to lower the tax rate because it's a cost of doing business, but we have to do so much more than that. Our biggest problem right now is our regulatory burden. The biggest regulatory problem we have is Obamacare and Dodd-Frank. I will repeal those bills. I've written those bills to repeal those bills that got to go. But beyond that, we have to legalize American energy. And here's something else that we have to do that will help the economy. We have to build the fence on America's southern border and get a grip on dealing with our immigration problem.
Okay.
Congresswoman Bachmann, Governor Romney is accepting the premises of the Democratic argument that you have to have a fair approach to taxation that preserves different rates for different people. Why is he wrong?
Well, I would say President Obama is the one that's wrong, because President Obama's plan for job creation has absolutely nothing to do with the true people who know how to create jobs. He should really be going to job creators if he wants to know how to create jobs. Instead, he continues to go to a General Axelrod in Chicago to look for his orders to figure out how to deal with the economy. That won't work. We know what needs to be done. We have a real problem. When you have 53% of Americans paying federal income taxes, but you have 47% of Americans who pay no federal income taxes, you have a real problem. And that's why in my tax plan, I have everyone paying something, because everyone benefits by this magnificent country. So even if it means paying the price of 2 Happy Meals a year, like $10, everyone can afford to pay at least that. And what it does is create a mentality in the United States that says that freedom is free. But freedom isn't free. We all benefit. We all need to sacrifice. Everybody has to be a part of this tax code.
Congresswoman Bachmann?
Governor Kane.
In one of the last debates, you were asked what you would do about foreclosures, and you told moms to hang on. But your advice, as your colleagues have mentioned, was let the economy recover. So you agree with Governor Romney that the way to fix the housing market is to let the foreclosure process proceed more rapidly?
Well, what I agree with is that we have got to stop what we're doing now. When we had the financial meltdown, 50% of the homes are being financed by Fannie and Freddie. Today, it's 90% of the homes. In other words, the government is the backer of the homes. Well, let's take a look at an analysis of what a great, brilliant job Freddie and Fannie are doing. They just applied this week for another $7 billion bailout because they're failing. The other one applied for a $6 billion bailout because they're failing. But what did they do? They just gave bonuses of almost $13 million to 10 top executives. This is the epicenter of crony capitalism. That's what's wrong with Washington, D.C. For these geniuses to give 10 of their top executives bonuses at $12 million and then have the guts to come to the American people and say, give us another $13 billion to bail us out just for the quarter, that's lunacy. We need to put them back into bankruptcy and get them out of business. They're destroying the house.
You have all said that you will repeal President Obama's health care legislation. Down the line, 30 seconds. If you repeal Obamacare, what's the answer?
The main problem with health care in the United States today is the issue of cost. It's just too expensive. And President Obama said that's what he would solve in Obamacare. We'd all save $2,500 a year in our premiums. Well, we have Obamacare, but we didn't have the savings. So what I would do to replace it is to allow every American to buy any health insurance policy they want anywhere in the United States without any federal minimum mandate. Today, there's an insurance monopoly in every state in the country. I would end that monopoly and let any American go anywhere they want. That's the free market. Number two, I would allow every American to pay for that insurance policy, their deductible, their copay, their pharmaceuticals, whatever it is that's medical related, with their own tax-free money. And then finally, I'd have true medical malpractice liability reform. If you do that, it's very simple. People own their own insurance policies, and you drive the costs down, because what we have to get rid of is government bureaucracy in health care. That's all we bought in Obamacare, was a huge bureaucracy. That has to go away.
Does any candidate on this stage disagree? Does any candidate disagree and oppose extension of the payroll tax cut?
Say that again.
Does any candidate disagree with the Speaker and Governor Romney and oppose the extension of the payroll tax cut?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You oppose it?
I do. I opposed it when it was first proposed, because I knew that it would blow a hole of $111 billion in the Social Security Trust Fund. President Obama clearly did this for political reasons. That's why he did it. And so I had made that warning then, because we actually have already run Social Security in the red. We aren't just about to, we already have, 6 years ahead of time. Now consider the context. We have baby boomers in their peak earning years. This is when money should be flooding into the Social Security Trust Fund. Instead, we're already in the red. When we talk this evening about how much trouble we're in with spending, we're in a tremendous amount of trouble with spending. Just consider, we pay a lot of taxes in this country. $2.2 trillion is what we send into Washington. The problem is, we spent at the government level $3.7 trillion.
Well,
you started out tonight
out of time, Congresswoman.
Congresswoman Bachmann, weigh in here. How do you open the markets in China for American companies?
Well, the Chinese have been bad actors. Recently, we found out that they dumped counterfeit computer chips here in the United States. We're using some of those counterfeit computer chips in the Pentagon in some of our weapons system. This has national security implications. We also found out that the Chinese just finished building 3,000 miles of underground tunnels where they are housing some nuclear weapons. There's some very real consequences to the United States overspending to such an extent that we're in hot to them over $1 trillion. We've sent so much interest money over to the Chinese to pay our debts off that we effectively built their aircraft carrier. And by 2015, we will be sending so much interest money over, we will be paying for the entire People's Liberation Army of China, the #1 employer of the world. What we need to do is stop enriching China with our money, and we do that by stop borrowing from them, by stop spending money that we don't have.